Thanks for coming back off the break. I know it's hard to have all that energy and then dial it back in. You've had a chance to hear from Dawn and Albert. I thought I'd give Brad a couple minutes to talk about his company and how EO Products is involved in the sustainable business space.
Yeah, thank you. Nice to be here. It's, I think the most impactful thing on a daily basis for us at EO is that we are located in Marin. It's, you know, we've been involved in the sustainable green practices, not really ever with any intention. We just kind of drifted down that path because we always felt like it was the right thing to do. Organic is just the right choice. And so there's always been that struggle of trying to find a place. You know, we have dialogues with Dow Chemical and Fortune 500 companies, and to have a dialogue about sustainable practices has been extremely difficult over 22 years. However, it's the like-mindedness of the people in Marin that has really kept us afloat. So I do want to say thank you so much for supporting us over the years. And Susan and I started EO, I think it was in 1995, and it really was without any intention to be sustainable or to be green. It was, we had our purpose in terms of how we wanted to participate in business. However, it was really, you know, we needed to make money to put food on the table for the kids. And the pain of let's try to forge a path for organic ingredients or utilize recycled plastic content in our bottles was much less than just the struggles of everyday life of bad cash flow or trying to make payroll. And there was that part of just, it added to my daily life of just general well-being. It made me feel good because I was respecting and honoring myself in the process of just the day in and day out struggles of life. And here we are 22 years later, and we're in Santa Fe. We manufacture and ship about 50,000 units a day to roughly 20,000 stores nationally and a little bit internationally. And so my main focus is just to try to stay committed to the cause. There's just a lot of hiccups along the way with scaling. And the devil's in the details.
Thanks, Brad.
So
Appreciate that. One of the best parts of my job is to be able to interact with bright, intelligent people, sometimes at the university, but often in settings like this, and to meet leaders that made a difference in their organizations, in the community, and in the world at large. We've heard from each of them talk about what they've done to scale and grow their businesses and their organizations. And I don't know how you're feeling, but I'm still sort of fired up from Tom's talk earlier, and we got some real good advice about how we can make a difference in the political arena. I'd like to ask our panelists how we can make a difference in our business and organizational arena. That is, as we've learned about the practices that you've done in your organizations, what advice would you share with us about being a sustainable business leader in our organizations? What are the best practices that we can bring to other types of businesses? When you were doing this, what things had the most ROI, and how did you sell what you were doing to the folks inside the organization and to your customers to make it work? Maybe we'll just start with you, Dawn.
Yeah, sure. So I think that the main thing that has really been a driver for us is trying to make sure that folks are aware of the choices that they have. And I think that for us, you know, there's been, it can be hard to spread the word to all the people in our community about, you know, what their choices are. What do you have as far as your energy choices? And I think, you know, being able to communicate your message in a really clear, simple, and compelling way is really, I think, a cornerstone of being able to have a successful business. And I don't think that we've necessarily mastered it. I think it's still a work in progress. But I know that same, you know, getting the message to your potential customers about why your product is a good choice, you know, why it's better for the environment, why it's better for your family. I think making that message clear and compelling is one of the most important things that I think any business in this field will face. And then the other thing that I'll mention is I think walking your talk is really important. So I think, and I want to ask, like, of all the people in this room, a lot of you were involved in getting MCE started. And just to kind of prove that, raise your hand if you're an MCE staff person right now. Actually, stand up if you're an MCE staff person. Yeah. So that's who's with us today, but I want folks to stand up if you were involved in any way in the launch of MCE. I think there's a lot of you here. Yeah. So I think that listening to your community is really important, and making sure that your values are true to the values of your customers or your communities is really important. And we think about that in every decision that we make. We make sure that our staff have a comfortable place to do their work, that they are compensated fairly, and that when we are hiring folks to build solar projects, that we look for places where there's unemployment, and we try and hire and train people up to get them onto career paths that they haven't had opportunities for before. So all of those values that really came from within the community, embodying those and staying true to them, I think is really important, and that's what can help keep your company strong.
Great, thank you very much. Albert?
Well, I want to kind of put it in perspective. There used to be, in 1940, there were 4.6 million dairy farms in the United States. Now there are 40,000 left. And they expect 20,000 in the next decade to survive. So we're, a fraction of the population producing food. And so my audience are farmers trying to create a positive, sustainable farming system that is economically viable, environmentally friendly, and socially valuable, not only for their own employees and themselves. Even the most successful farmers don't pay themselves what it would cost to get a manager to do their job. So it's not sustainable. Why would the next generation want to farm if they can't pay themselves, work 7 days a week, 365 days a year? So what I'm trying to do is create that model, create the relationships with our farmers, as I talked about, where we actually hand deliver the milk check twice a month to the farmers. Some from management from the Creamery goes and hand delivers it to them, and starts to understand what their challenges are, get a relationship with them, and not have this kind of, either by a direct deposit or just this hands-off relationship. And then every quarter we get together with our farmers and talk about the challenges, talk about the volume, how the Creamery is doing, how is our sales doing, talk about volume and price. We keep the volume from the farms in line with the sales. And so we've been able to maintain our prices at the high level it was 2 years ago. We've had to reduce our pay price by 2% and our volume by 5%, whereas all our competitors have cut their prices either by 50, 100%. They've cut their volumes by up to a third to half also. So it's something, we were trying to make a stable environment for farmers, and then also producing high quality food, organic food that consumers can really, if we didn't have the quality, we wouldn't have the customers. And so quality is a very important part for us. And it drives my mission and our mission as Creamery. We have two of our sustainability department is here. Joseph, our sustainability director, and Robert, our intern. Coordinator. But we're trying to measure everything that we're doing at the Creamery as far as waste, water, energy, and really kind of make sustainable system that we can really look at improving, as well as as I said, our mission on the farms is to really kind of drive that sustainability part. So I'm probably getting a little bit further. So I'm trying to live as a business. We look at a return on investment. These sustainability practices have a return on investment. Our methane digester paid off in 4 to 5 years, but we really kind of we didn't put a Cadillac in, we put in something that really, electric car. You know, we put something in that really was going to work every day and be low maintenance. And then, so anything we're doing, looking at the return on investment, but is important as well as how we can progress on a sustainable model.
I'm struck by what you both have said. Walking your talk, living your values, strong communication, metrics, ROI, relationships. These aren't just sustainable business practices. We teach these in the business school as fundamental business practices, but they lead to sustainable business results. And then to put them in the context of climate change and other sort of triple bottom lines, it makes all the sense in the world.
With our consumers, with everybody we deal with in life, is how do we kind of work together on problem solving, coming in with a common future and common vision. So it's something that I'm doing more and more of, going to see different customers, talking about our sustainability and our innovation and all these things that really drives our company. I want to say one thing, innovation is something, if you lose innovation, you lose momentum and can lose your business. So I think that's one thing I want to talk about more, but the relationships and educating, and most consumers don't know where their food comes from. So how do you get that message out there, the challenges, the opportunities, and the values of farming and relay it to the consumer and the public?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would just add that for MCE, the relationships are important on a lot of different levels. You know, I think that the primary relationship that is really valuable is our relationship with our local governments that are part of our agency. We have representatives from each of those local governments that sit on our board. I think we have actually a couple of board members here, Barbara Kohler I saw, and anyway, those relationships with the local governments really help us determine what's important in those communities, and that's really valuable. I think also as far as renewable energy relationships, and you know, we have relationships with a lot of suppliers, but I think the part that's been the most important and the most rewarding really for me is the relationships with the workers and the workforce and the job training programs. We work a lot with Richmond Build and the Marin City Community Development Corporation, and it's just so incredibly rewarding to see those agencies training folks up and getting them into green collar jobs. Also, you know, relationships for us on the legislative level and regulatory level are really important, and it's hard, you know, as an agency to maintain as much contact as we really need to in those arenas. There's a lot of change in the energy industry right now because the community choice movement has really taken hold across the state, and we are likely to see more than half of the state being served by community choice programs in the next 5 years. So that kind of calls into question what is the role of the regulator. They're used to regulating. We're used to having local control. So, you know, maintaining strong relationships there is really important, and with legislators, making sure they understand what we're doing is really valuable. So I'll leave it there.
Can I just add one thing? Is I wanted to talk about the relationship with our employees. We have 135 employees at the Creamery, and 85% of our immigrants. And really, the fear and anxiety that it's had with this administration, I'm really trying to support our staff and our community, and through getting the resources they need to be successful and be part of. They're members of our community. So it feels that's part of what we do as well as a business.
It tees up a last question I had. I saw a 3-minute warning, which is then we can do some Q&A. So I'm staying on time here. So imagine this, at the end of this conference tonight, you go home, you reflect on what you learned today, and then you go to sleep. And you wake up and it's 20 years into the future, and you look out your front porch, and the world has changed in the ways that you want to see it change most. The things that you hoped would happen have happened, especially in the context here of sustainable business, sustainable development. What have you seen? What has happened for us? What's the vision that you hold most dear about what the future can be?
Yeah, I can start. I think that obviously everyone would be getting their energy from 100% renewable sources, so that would be the first thing. I saw this question in your remarks yesterday, kind of getting a feel for what you might ask, and the first thing I really thought about is waking up from a 10-year sleep and walking into an epiphany of everything you might want. I thought about there would be a lot of birds, a lot of trees, a lot of clean energy, no fossil fuels, and a lot more connection, a lot more community connection. But I think the thing that I would want most in that vision is more equity, more diversity, more recognition of the value of diversity and equity. And if that part of the dream could come true, it would be pretty awesome.
That's great.
I'd like to see a continuation of what we've seen in the last 20-some years, is that farming model that is organic, sustainable, a positive influence on the community, having a community that's able to, rural communities that actually people can actually work and live in those communities and afford to, and which we've lost, and be able to really move forward as a community together to a common future.
That's great
Yep.
answer.
Local relationships. I think 100,000 years ago we were running away from the saber-toothed tigers, and now there aren't any left, and now we're running away from Trump, and 20 years from now we're going to be running away from someone else. And I just think that community really, I hope, plays a larger role in everyone's lives, because I think that there's just so much more value and joy in that.
Thanks. Let's get some questions from the audience. I think we have a microphone going around.
I just want to say thank you, Albert. I've been using your bottles since probably '95. And
The same bottle?
I don't know, maybe. I don't know what's the life of the bottle. So I come at this from a reuse perspective, and I've been doing reuse for a very long time. I have a business called Green Links in Santa Rosa, and I live here in Novato. And what I'm seeing, or what we're seeing at a state level, is where our lumber, our wood, everything that's coming out of C&D waste is pretty much being either burned up in a cogen plant, which is changing a little bit now, or being landfilled if it has paint. So what we're trying to do, our company and some partners of ours, the Away Station and some other companies, is to try to capture that wood and get it into the reuse stream, and creating a woodshed so we actually use this wood again and again and again. And I'm wondering, how do we, because we're like where you were in '94, like we don't have support, we have very few people that know what we do. Like what would you recommend for our industry?
Sounds like directed to me. I can understand your dilemma. We're pushing all the time. We just found a totally post-consumer waste plastic bottle, and we just trying to get that integrated. So I've been working on getting rid of plastic throughout the whole 24 years. Wood, I think, who you should be talking to, I think, we'd love to be able to participate in figuring out who the resources are statewide, And locally, we've, Cal Recycle, different people that are really looking at how to change the dynamic, because the recycling industry is broken. And I think part of it is that consumers aren't allowed to separate their recycling and then really make a clean recycle stream. But I don't have the specific answer. But I'd be happy to link you to people that maybe have more answers.
Question over here.
Hi. I'm part of a benefit corporation. Benefit corporation movement has begun, but it's not really soared. And I was wondering if any of you might have advice as you're thinking about your funders. How do you talk to funders about, we're not aiming to have 10x, we're not aiming to become multimillionaires, we are simply aiming to be good employers, pursuing a great mission, and having a sustainable business. Is that good enough in today's economy?
I think everyone probably has an answer on that one.
Yeah, well, I mean, our customers our funders are all of you, our customers. So we're in a position where we don't need to pitch funders for revenue, but we do need to inform our customers about what we're doing. I think that in some cases, being a green company is enough. In other cases, it's not. Sometimes you have to have the cheaper product, and fortunately, most of the time, MCE is the cheaper product for our light green option. For the deep green option, that's 100% renewable. Folks have to pay a little more, but it's only $4 a month, So, opting up to deep green is a message that we have to deliver in a compelling way to our funders, all of you, to pay a little bit extra so that we can get that even cleaner product into the mix. So I think it can be enough, but delivering the message is really the trick, and making sure that it's compelling.
I just want to say that we're privately owned, family owned, and we've never wanted to go to outside investors or have been for sale, because my mission and my values get diluted when there's other people that have a vested interest in it. So for me, I feel that we had B Corp come to us in the very beginning, and I felt that we were going way beyond what B Corp values are, and we were not trying to make a statement to the public other than the values that we espouse.
Albert, you can just answer all my questions for me. We're privately held, we're family owned, we're a benefit corp, and I was the last one on board with benefit corp because I always felt like we were going beyond it, and it's an excellent question, and meeting Main Street business with these wild, wacky ideas of B Corps and green and all that sort of stuff, it's hard to kind of mesh things in together, but I think that the millennials are really coming in strong here. They're really pushing the larger base of, mainstream business finance into this place that is more sustainable and more green. And so I think the only thing that I can say is what I've done, and it's just like every day I go to work and I try to make that change. I need to get 19 no's before I hit that 20th yes, and it's that process of 19 no's.
I'm going to take moderator's privilege to actually answer the question from a dean of a business school perspective, because we're teaching our students this. I see my colleague, Professor Gerling here, so we address this in the class, and I think your question is incomplete in that you said 10x, but you left the next expression open. So it's 10x what? And usually it's some financial metric that people think they want, or businesses think their investors want to hear, and so that's profit. But there is people planning it, and Albert was talking about, for me, another P. You said innovation. I'd say progress in some ways, constant discovering. So those are equally important business metrics, and the best businesses over time, the ones we're hearing about here that have been around a long time or that have grown dramatically in the few years that they've been around, are attending to what I call quadruple bottom line. And it's okay to talk to investors about a quadruple bottom line. They may not know, they may not have the education, because when they went to business school, that's not what we were talking about. But it's changing, and I'll own my bias, but in education, we can start across a generation changing how people look at what really defines a successful business. I think this type of conference with business and community leaders also helps forward that dialogue. We have another question up here.
Yeah, this is for Dawn. I'm curious to know what the community choice movement is looking at as far as delivery and infrastructure, because right now that is still in private ownership and they're jacking up their rates, and their infrastructure is not being kept up. And I'm wondering if you're and also the way we're creating the energy might change the way it should be delivered. So I'm curious to know how you're looking at that.
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, the essence of the community choice and the basis of the legal statute that we follow is that we supply only the generation part of a customer's electrical service. The transmission and distribution continues to be controlled by the investor-owned utility. I think that if community choice programs continue to proceed down that path, it will free up, hopefully, the investor-owned utilities to focus more on their infrastructure and to do a better job or do a good job of keeping it running in the best way possible. I think that there are certainly there are many customers in California. About 1 out of every 4 customers in California is served by a municipal utility, and a municipal utility is similar to a community choice program where you've got a local a city council or a local governing board managing the utility, and there they handle everything, the transmission and distribution and the generation function. We see those agencies really as sister agencies. We collaborate with them a lot. Our territories don't overlap. We're not allowed to have a community choice program launch in a municipal utility jurisdiction, but we have a very similar model. I think maybe part of your question is, will these CCA programs want to become municipal utilities in the future? And I don't know. I think that it's been really valuable to use the CCA model to really get at the heart of where we can impact climate change by changing the generation, changing what's coming onto the wires. And that's been extremely valuable and isn't as big of an undertaking as valuing and buying out the transmission and distribution infrastructure. We've seen many cities, local governments try to go through that process, and it's a very big battle, very costly, and often doesn't work out. So that's not part of our vision today. But it's certainly something to think about for the future. And I think the last part of your question was kind of touching on this idea of microgrids. What if customers don't need the grid as much in the future? And I think we're kind of at the beginning part of that dialogue to see, is it easier to have a massive infrastructure that everyone relies on? It certainly seems to be the most efficient approach right now to use the grid that's in place for folks to rely on. If you've got solar on your roof, then you're feeding power into your house and onto the grid during the day, but then in the evening you're pulling power back off the grid. Really the only alternative, if you want to have power around the clock, is to have a methane digester in your backyard or a battery of some sort. Maybe you could have a windmill that helps when the wind is blowing at night, but in order to have that reliability, it'll be interesting to see. I think in the next 10 years, I really don't know if there's going to be more of a shift to microgrids where you have battery storage and methane digesters and solar panels and hospitals and homes all sort of linked up to a little mini grid. That would take its own servicing and management and could work well. Might be more costly. I don't think we know yet. And our customers are going to really want that versus the convenience of just using the grid that's in place. So I think that there will be a lot more innovation in that sector in the future, and I'm not sure where it will go.
So I've got the stop sign here. There's other questions. Let me sum up by saying I know we want to allow time for people to talk about the ideas this morning at your table. So let me just sum up by saying it's been an honor for me to be up here with people who are not only successful but smart and inspiring in the way that you do it. Let's give our panelists a hand for their work.